Hello and welcome back to the Web Canopy Studio Show. I'm your host, Tom Andrews, and today we are joined once again by Elliot Sitkins. And this time we are going to be talking about email marketing specifically inside of HubSpot. It's a fascinating episode. Let's get started. So Elliot, welcome back to the Web Canopy Studio Show. How are we today?
Pretty good. Glad to be back. All the fans have been clamoring for my return, I'm sure. So here we are.
I bet. Have you got your autographs ready, like the signed photos to send?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right then, sweet. So last episode we spoke about email marketing generally, kind of platform agnostic really, just talking about general best practices and some tactics to help people squeeze more juice out of their email marketing. Today, however, we are going to be going a lot deeper into the weeds, talking about our favorite email marketing platform. I mean, we are a HubSpot partner agency, so it's going to be a bit weird if we suddenly mention Klaviyo. But no, HubSpot is generally incredible, especially for B2B companies. Probably worth mentioning that platforms like Klaviyo just for email are probably great for e-commerce. But for our stuff, for our market, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably in B2B. HubSpot is amazing. So, Elliot, do you want to start off just by talking about or giving us an overview of HubSpot's capabilities and advantages for email marketing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, like you said, we're a little biased, but I really do think HubSpot is one of, if not the best email marketing tools out there. And really all that comes down to, at its foundation, HubSpot has everything centered around their CRM. So rather than being an email tool that you can just upload contacts tool, it's truly a contact database that also allows you to leverage all that information into its email tools. And its email tool is one of the oldest things they've had. We've actually had talks with HubSpot's internal team. Like, that is the thing they've probably worked on and perfected the most. They've obviously expanded into so many different hubs and different tools, but email is really the one that's the most sorted out. So the ability to access all the information from your contact database, not only have those emails, but all the information you might use for personalization tokens, which we'll get into a second, and even just being able to sort it out into lists and have all of that available in one platform that also tracks all their email activity over time, so you can search through that, and all the automation tools and everything on top of that, and just being easy to use. It really is a great tool for most marketers.
So let's now dive in again a little bit deeper and just talk about some specific tools. And you mentioned there the personalization tokens. How can you use HubSpot's personalization tokens to essentially make your email marketing better and make it feel more personal?
Absolutely. So the most common, like, easy use is just going to be using that first name token. I think that's very common. Most brands do this nowadays, but for good reason. I forget the exact number, but there's a lot of evidence about, more personalized content getting more engagement, better open rates, things like that. So whether it's in a subject line or preview line or just the first line of the email, just like that, hey, first name, so someone knows that it's a little bit more customized for you. Even if, at least as marketers, we generally know that those emails are going to be automated. It still shows they put in a little bit of effort to make it for you. And obviously, you don't want to go too far to the other extreme and give them all of the information you have on them in their database. That's going to creep them out a little bit. But being able to make it personalized like that. The other great thing that HubSpot Tools has is sometimes you do need a hyper personalized email if it's maybe a little bit more transactional. If you're you can even send internal emails this way to pass along contact information, or external emails if it's like a confirmation, like, hey, we received all this from you. You can go ahead and plug in all the information that you would need. You can also use a lot of the information in their database for smart content, which would be actually modifying different parts of the email. Like, you can, modify the opening paragraph if, say, I'm emailing both marketers and sales leaders, and I want to adjust how I introduce myself a little bit depending on that audience. If those people are members of a list of, marketers and sales leaders segmented in my HubSpot, I can actually change the first paragraph that they're going to get entirely. So just a lot of different options to customize and personalize the content for your audience. And make sure that you're going to get better engagement in that.
And something I was thinking of when you were saying that was when it comes to that personalization, as marketers, we understand it. And I think most people do in today's day and age that it's not just a one-to-one email. However, one thing HubSpot offers is workflows, which is your typical marketing emails, and then sequences, which are your more sales emails, which are going to look as though they are just coming from one person to another. Do you feel that personalization tokens can maybe how should I phrase it? That almost you can make the most out of personalization tokens from sequences rather than workflows. And if so, can you maybe give me a specific way how you could use a personalization token in a sequence?
Um, yes and no. I would definitely say that because a sequence, as you said, just high level, workflows are using automated marketing emails. That's like your general, one to many, like you said, and then sequences are more of a sales tool, actually leveraging your inbox, whether that's, Outlook, Gmail, sending one-to-one emails, like you said. So yes, in that sense, personalization tokens can be more helpful in sequences because it is that more personalized, more direct outreach. Like I know in the past we've even played around with if you're doing like cold sales outreach through a sequence or lukewarm sales outreach, even if you kind of have a template that you're going to send but you want to customize maybe the first email or two, if you have like an SDR role, you can actually create a custom property on a contact record that says custom first line. And that way, if you have someone doing research on this person and you just want to customize that first line to be like, hey, came across your LinkedIn profile and I noticed this experience, whatever that is, to make it a little bit more customized. Now you can actually completely change the first line of an email and have someone go in and just update on everyone's contact record. Then you can have a completely templated email. All you do is use a personalization token custom first line. That'll be the only thing you need to adjust in there. It's going to automatically pull in, their name and whatever else you need to introduce. So in that sense, using some of those tools like that for that more personal outreach, absolutely. And so from a sales side, yes, there are some other more creative ways you can use personalization tokens and smart content in marketing emails where, like I said, if you're treating it as more of a transaction email and you want to, give them, let them know some of the answers to their form responses, or use smart content to recommend different products, things along those lines, that might be a more complex use of those features in marketing emails.
Oh, super fascinating. And one thing where HubSpot truly excels as well is with sequences and workflows, the email automation side of things. So, I mean, as marketers, we all love the idea, don't we, of setting something up once and then letting it run forever. And it sounds like with that personalization, we can do that really effectively. Have you got any best practices for using email automation though, without overwhelming recipients? Because I imagine it can be very tempting to just write a ton of emails and just be like, boom, there you go. This is all automated. Sit back now. But whereas in reality, that could get overwhelming. People could start receiving too many emails maybe. So have you got any best practices for just sort of keeping that excitement level down and not letting us marketers just go and have a free for all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big things to keep in mind just with HubSpot in general, but especially when it comes to things like automation, is keeping your portal clean and organized. Because when you first get started, it can be super exciting to, do a new lead engagement, a lead re-engagement, once this action is taken, we're going to automate these emails. Those are all great things, but make sure you're really keeping track of what triggers someone to take an action and what's going to happen when that trigger happens. Because after a while, once you create all these workflows, if you leave them all on, it can be easy to lose track of a campaign you might have started a year and a half ago. All of a sudden, you want to launch something new, and now a new lead might come into your database and get enrolled in 3 workflows right off the bat. And all of a sudden, well, each of those workflows individually might be well timed to send, an email every other day for a couple weeks. But now all of a sudden they're getting 2 emails every single day for a week because you didn't realize all these background workflows were going on. And that can quickly overwhelm someone and turn them off, especially if the messaging is not aligned and they're getting promoted 3 different offers. So I think the number one thing is just making sure that you are aware of all the other workflows. In workflows, you can also check in settings to automatically unenroll someone from other workflows. And in sequences, that'll automatically happen. Someone can only be enrolled in one sequence at a time. So just keeping track, making sure that you're organized with all that.
Yeah, I've signed up to email lists before where I've then got their welcome series, and then like an hour or two or however long after, not very long, I'll receive another email, which is generally their sort of daily or weekly email. And then in some cases, you'll then get a separate email later that day about like another promotion they're running. So like you said there, you've got 3 emails from different workflows coming and like smacking you around the face, and you just cannot possibly keep track. And in your head, you're trying to work out, well, hang on a minute, like where does this relate into the last email? And it just doesn't. And that automatically leaves a bad taste in your mouth because you think, okay, these people don't care about me. They're just trying to squeeze me for every penny I've got. And that's why they're bombarding me with emails. One other tool that I really want to cover is the A/B testing tool, just because the really cool thing with email marketing is that if you, depending on your list size, and you will need, I think, quite a decent size list to really make the most out of A/B testing, just so you hit statistical significance. But if you do have a list size, and I'll ask you what list size you think that should be in a moment as a minimum, but you can then send one part of an email, such as a subject line, out to one segment of your list, and then another subject line out to another, see which one does best. And if there's a statistically significant difference, send that subject line or whatever part of your email you're testing to the rest of your list. So can you just go into a little bit more depth about A/B testing, specifically in HubSpot, and any do's and don'ts of A/B testing and things to watch out for?
Yeah, so like you were saying, the cool thing with HubSpot's A/B testing for marketing emails is if you, so say we're gonna, send out a new offer, we schedule it to send out at noon today. What's gonna happen is HubSpot is gonna automatically send to half of your list, a random sample of half your list is gonna get sent out at noon. Over the next 4 hours, it's then gonna determine which version, A or B, performed better based on the metric you choose. It can be open rate, click through rate. And then 4 hours later, it's going to send to the rest of your audience the winning example. And if it can't determine a winner, then it'll just continue to send them 50-50. So for that automation to happen, I believe their number is 2,000 contacts. So that's kind of like what they determined is going to be, make sure that 1,000 people will then get the A and B versions, and hopefully enough of them will engage in the first 4 hours to get significant results to determine a winner. Now, you still can send an A/B version with fewer than that, but it's just going to randomly sample A and B. You'll have to pick the winner and take those results into account for the next time. And you can also do A/B testing with sequences now. That's kind of a newer feature that HubSpot has introduced. But anyways, as you were saying, with best practices, the main thing is know what you want to test for. So like I said, you can test for open rate, click-through rate, or click rate. Make sure that you are optimizing the correct thing. So if it's open rate, generally you're going to be testing subject lines there. Make sure you're only testing subject lines because we want to determine what's going to win there. Same thing if we're determining click rate, that might be layout of the email or some copy tweaks. But make sure you're testing one thing at a time, and make sure you're tracking results is the big thing. I know a lot of people they love that there's an A/B test feature. They run all sorts of A/B tests, but they never really track and look back on that information to make improvements going forward. It's always just like, okay, let's see which subject line wins in all these emails. Like, okay, great. After you run 10 tests, let's look back. Does asking questions work better? Does using more personalization work better? Is there certain language that tends to get higher open rates? And use that to continually test and improve going forward. Because we don't just want to keep running, 20% open rate versus 25% open rate. Okay, the 25% wins every time. Well, now test some of those subject lines against each other and use variations to maybe bump that up to 30%.
Fantastic. And just touching on that at the end, have you found a way to maybe use AI to speed that process up? So say you find that you, like you said, you look at the last 10 email subject lines you've said, is there a way to maybe take all of those subject lines, put it into ChatGPT, and maybe ask it to explain if they see a pattern? Is that something you've tried, and is that something you can do just to make sure you are actually, like you said, using the A/B test for the future rather than just to see what wins in the present?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I really like how you explained that use case, because I think a lot of people would be tempted to say, here's the subject lines that performed well for me. and then just ask ChatGPT to write new ones, which you can do. But I find that it can be, ChatGPT or any generative AI model is very hit or miss with certain things like that. Every once in a while, they'll get a good subject line, but they tend to feel really, formulaic and
Mm-hmm.
forced. And at least for people like us that deal with subject lines a lot, you tend to notice, obviously they're trained on patterns, but it can be a little obvious. But that being said, it can be a great idea to feed it and say, hey, here's the results of my last 10 A/B tests. Here were the winners, here were the losers. What patterns can you find? And it will do a really good job of searching through those and saying, hey, topics like this performed well. Or when you used a more assertive rather than a passive voice, that performed well. And so, the important thing just always with AI is make sure you're specific on what you're asking it and what you want the answer, what kind of answer you want it to give you. But yeah, it can give you really good insights on things like that.
And speaking of giving it specific instructions, I've also found when it actually comes to writing emails that if you just ask it to write an email, it will come up with something horrible. Where as email marketers, it just gives us the ick. We don't like it. However, if you do feed it specific instructions saying what you want the email to do, and then give it examples of either other emails you've written or competitors' emails that essentially do the same job, attach those to ChatGPT and then tell it what you need and why you need it, who your target audience is. Doing that can actually spit back some really good emails. You're still probably going to have to edit it a bit because I'm yet to take anything from ChatGPT or another AI
Mm-hmm.
model and run with it straight away. But there are some really great use cases
Yeah.
for AI.
Well,
So,
yeah,
Elliot, I was gonna
I was gonna
say,
say,
oh, you carry on.
not to cut you off there. I was gonna say we could do a whole episode on AI, and maybe we will. But
That's what I
we
was gonna say.
also, but John Aiken and I actually hosted an AI boot camp, and you can watch all that recorded. So if you want access to our AI boot camp, shoot me an email, Elliot, ELLIOTT, at webcanvastudio.com, and I can work on getting you access to the AI boot camp. There's a ton of helpful stuff in there about how some ideas that we've used there, and we're probably going to launch another one this next year. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yep, and I have to say that is a very good boot camp. Slightly biased opinion, but it is ridiculously worth it. And I love that idea. That's what I was going to say. I think we should get together and film or record an entire podcast episode about AI, maybe specific to emails, maybe just in general. But listeners, you have that to look forward to in the near future. Elliot will make it another date. So, Elliot Sitkins, been an absolute pleasure again. You are a star of the show already. And listeners, we'll see you soon.